Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 171 of Kouryer podcast. And of course, our today's guest is Mr. Sean Vo. A lot of you people know that I put the question box story on my Instagram page. Do you have any questions by now? So you guys are not getting particularly surprised by who the guest is. So I get that, but I'm glad that I've been, and actually this is like a really good time to shout out the fact that on the Instagram page of the Kouryer podcast, anytime before the recording date or day of any podcast with any guests, I'll add their, mention their profiles and some of their works on the story. So if you have any questions, related to their field, you can ask them. For anyone who's listening, I always do that. Check out the Instagram page, follow that as well for any upcoming, announcements and stuff like that. And our today's guest is Mr. Sean Vo. He's a concept artist from Montreal, Canada. And for contacts section of the captions, if you go and check it out, I wrote his Instagram and ArtStation link as well. So if you want to go check more of his stuff out, you can go there as well. And I highly recommend, checking out his ArtStation as well, because there's like a really cool full resolution, pieces of some of the IPs he's worked on, the big one, Guardians of Galaxy, that really caught my eye personally. And yeah, man, how are you doing today?
Hi, I'm great. Yeah, how are you?
I'm fine. Is the weather getting really hot in Montreal?
It's starting to get hot, yeah. And don't want to bother you too much about it, but my air conditioner just broke, so I'm kind of feeling it.
And is it really the humidity is high there, or it's low, medium humidity?
The thing about Montreal is you kind of get everything. So you'll get, I've heard you've probably heard of the winters here. It gets pretty dry, pretty cold. Where do you live, by the way? I'm just curious.
I'm in Istanbul, Turkey. I'm based in Istanbul, Turkey.
Oh, it's probably nice. Probably really nice and hot there. It gets pretty cold here and also really hot. People are surprised. The summers are, pretty hot, pretty humid.
Yeah. And let's jump into the first question that I always do with every guest. It's basically one of the major signature questions I ask everyone, which is, give us a little introduction on how we got into the world of visual arts and design and just art in general. Basically what happened, what was the story of origin point of view that made you realize and go, oh, I want to become an artist for the rest of my life. I love this stuff,
Okay. Yeah. From the beginning. So I guess I was kind of similar to a lot of people in how they start art. I was very young. I was kind of, maybe 10 or 11, and I was always kind of introverted. That's kind of a lot of the stories we hear. So I kind of gravitated towards drawing in class, drawing at home. And I think I was maybe around 12. My teacher told me that I had a knack for it. And I think I liked the fact that she told me that. So I just kept drawing. And I guess when, I got a bit older, I started to think of it as maybe what should I use this as a career? I really like drawing. It's really fun. People say I'm pretty good. So I'm just in college, I had to make a decision, and I found a school that was nearby in Montreal called Dawson that had an illustration course. So from there, I was thinking of, taking my art further. At the time, I didn't know what concept art was, though. That was kind of still a mystery. I was just trying to find a way to do, cool drawings, that people like to do when they're young, warriors and all that kind of stuff. Just trying to find a place for that. So I went there for 3 years and really enjoyed it. But I think I found out about concept art maybe in my first year. There's some guys there that I met that were talking about it, and they were, talking about, Feng Zhu and all those guys at the time, and showing me all the tutorials and all the cool stuff that's being done in digital. So I got really interested. So that's kind of where the dream began for at least concept art. And from there, I think I took a part-time job after Dawson in t-shirts, and tried to do concept art. I went to concept art school, actually, at Sin Studio in Montreal. I don't know if anyone's here has heard of it, but they were doing some single class courses. You would just take a course here and there. So I think I studied for around maybe 3-4 years after that, and then after that I managed to land my first gig. So I don't know if should I keep going or
Yeah, of course, please do.
Yeah. Yeah, so yeah, it took a long time after art school to kind of get my I guess my chops at a good enough skill level. But yeah, I got a job through my school. So one of my teachers was working for WB at the time, and he was kind of like on the lookout a bit. Like he wasn't telling us directly, but he was planning on hiring like 4 or 5 students at the same time. So yeah, I got really lucky, and I was one of the five people he chose. So I got to start at yeah, Warner Brothers as an environment junior concept artist.
All right, awesome. And actually, it's so true that, one of the best ways to break into the industry, I mean, of course, if you're in North America mostly, I've heard that a lot. I mean, it happens in Europe as well, but like mostly in America, that's a lot that when you, like North America, both Canada and, United States, that one of the best ways to break into the industry is to, enroll in like an art school or like, academies like that. So because a lot of, I mean, good, like actually reputable ones, not necessarily any of them, because a lot of like, top concept artists or artists in the industry are also teachers and instructors as well. And if you actually show some, determination and, work ethic and passion, there's a high chance you're going to get under crosshairs of, as nominees for, the next junior artist. And of course, I mean, it's not the end of the world if you can't afford it, always, if you just work hard, be open-minded, and just love what you do. At the end of the day, I think you can still get the job. I mean, yeah, that's a no-brainer. But yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
that's a really interesting point. Like, of enrolling in art schools, which is something that's really interesting to me because, like in 2012, I think I was back then like 15 years old, all right. And back then, I was googling like just I know we couldn't do it, but I was just googling video game major in different universities around the world. And of course, I think an ad popped up on Google and it's brought up Full Sail Academy in Florida, I think. I don't know if you know there. And
That's true.
at the time, like the price of a full course of like 4 year degree at that time with $5,000-6,000 of worth of equipment and everything was like $65,000 for 4 years, which was crazy.
Oh, yeah, it's a lot.
No, at the time even it was pretty low compared to like other stuff, at the time. Of
Oh yeah,
course,
like
I mean, at the end, we couldn't afford it. But yeah. And it's I mean, a lot of my audience are Iranians as well, like me, because I mean, unfortunately, right now the economy is not so great, and it's just going downhill. But
yeah.
at that time, $1 was like 2,000 2 months for us, which it's so weird to try to make it like a comparison of prices because it's so crazy that it changes like in the value of our money, right? All right, just as a reference, I'm gonna say this. At that time, the dollar was like 2,300 2 months. And I'm just gonna say this: like a small water of bottle at that time was 500 2 months. So with $1 at the time, you could buy like let's say 4 small bottles of water. Let me say that. No, sorry, actually, big water bottles were 500 2 months back then. All right, still relatively cheap, right? Mm-hmm. For us, now it's 33,000 2 months each dollar. So it basically multiplied by 15 times at least.
Oh man!
Yeah. And because at the time, it was still now that I think of it, at the time it was still a viable option technically if I was serious. And I mean, of course, at the time I was a 15-year-old kid, and my there were so many things going on. But it's one of those scenarios that when you think about it, like, oh man, if I had a time machine and could talk to my younger self, I would have done this. That sort of situation for me. Mm-hmm. Do you have any of those type of situations? When you sometimes think about past when you were younger?
Like currency destabilization?
No, just life in general, man.
I feel pretty. I mean, I feel like the struggles here were a bit different. Like I think I'm very privileged. I feel in Canada, it seems to be very stable, and I think people have that view of Canada. It's just like, it's just Canada. Like they're fine, they're happy. They're doing their thing. I guess when I was a kid, like my struggles were more. Kind of being that kind of artist archetype of kind of, I like to do art. I like to be alone. I had my group of friends, but like, I think that was mainly my challenge growing up is like, okay, am I just this artist guy that's kind of like very introverted and kept to himself, or like who am I kind of thing. That's more me though. Like I know for you maybe it was different. Economy exploding or whatever. That's not fun either. So yeah, it's hard to relate, I guess.
Yeah, man, and there's so many other things like I don't know even where to start. But I mean, I guess it's not. I mean, all challenges are necessarily financial. I mean, there's also like there's a saying in I think I'm not sure if it's like an Arabic analogy or a Farsi analogy. I'm not sure, but it's basically saying that just because like you have a golden cage, a bird has a golden cage doesn't mean necessarily like they're happy. And
Oh
that's
yeah.
the thing, people like to, especially, people from like my side, the Middle East, people are like, oh, reaching like, Europe or North America or whatever is like the ultimate goal, which I mean, I get that. Like, I'm trying to do that as well. Like, I'm not trying to, like, judge or anything. But the fact is that, if you don't have the, like, your life goals figured out, what you want to do, what you want to become, that's a core of happiness, in my opinion, like one of the main pillars. So what I'm trying to get into is, yeah, I mean, you kind of said that you can't relate with the whole financial thing, but I'm sure like there must have
It's
been
tough. It's another type of stress that
yeah,
I'm
of
very
course.
happy I never got to go through it. Like, it's a very like, especially if your country is going through a lot of stuff, it's like I feel like that would be such a physical stress, like, the security of
Yeah.
like your job, imagine your savings disappearing. Like, I can't imagine
Oh yeah,
that.
that's a super common thing. Like,
Yeah.
in Middle East, like, we're kind of, unfortunately, for better or worse, we used to it. But yeah, I mean, a lot crypto saved a lot of people. We love to, of course, say a lot of bad stuff about crypto and monkey NFTs and all of that stuff and talks. But
Yeah.
I mean, I'm gonna be honest. I like the technology. It's really interesting. I mean, of course, it's been hijacked by a lot of like greedy like people. But all in all, like for example, I wanted to buy a hard surface modeling course by Caleb Alexandrov, and I genuinely didn't want to pirate it, and I didn't. But I wanted to actually download it because I wanted to learn hard surface modeling better, and it was a high rated course. So what I did was, by the way, recently, even in Turkey, there's a lot of economic sanctions against it internationally. Like, even you can't buy anything on Steam now because of how the the economic situation bad, how bad it's been gotten here in Turkey as well. And basically, a lot of international transactions have been cut. So what I did was I sent the money as crypto, as Ethereum, to one of my friends in Canada, and he bought it for me and gifted me as an email. And it just took
Wow,
like five
that's
minutes.
great.
Yeah, I mean, crypto
Yeah,
is good. I
it's
mean, I like the
incredible.
technology. It's helpful, you know?
Yeah, I mean, there's so much it opens up. Like, I don't know how deep you're into crypto. I kind of know just the surface level stuff. I know some people, they go like super deep, so it's like it's almost like a philosophy. It's like a vision for the future kind of thing, which I think is cool. But yeah, like, it just opens up so many possibilities that like never were there. Like, someone, let's say, in a country that's not doing so well, it's like if they have crypto saved up, it's like they have this like currency that's very like worldwide. It's not like getting printed to death by some government. Like, it's not. It doesn't have that. Yeah, I hear people talking about like the fiat whatever currency kind of shenanigans, but it seems to be free of that. Right now, it's kind of. I hear it's going down, so I'm hoping everything's okay, but yeah, it's like, who knows where this currency will take us. I mean, NFTs are a thing. I guess you probably talked to people on this podcast about that.
Yeah. And oh my God, like, I kind of, I kind of have to admit it, like, it was like, even last year, like, even around these times, I brought on, because I was interested in the topic, honestly, like, genuine, like, yeah, with a pure heart. Like, I wasn't like, wanted to become one of those annoying, braggadocious crypto bros or anything, but I was genuinely interested, and I brought on a bunch of great NFT artists as well. I did a lot of my own research, and I don't want to get, it's a whole rabbit hole. I don't want to get into this, but all in all, I'm kind of cringing at my past self last year, how I couldn't see that multiple, like, like, basically I looked at it pretty one dimensionally, and I was like, oh, it's great, blah blah blah. But there's, at the same time, you have to take into account other perspectives of a certain situation. Like, now, for example, we're talking about NFTs. Like, it's basically, like, long story short, a TLDR is it's still like crypto. I like the technology, I like the idea, but it's been hijacked by 9% of it has been hijacked by like greedy just douchey crypto bros, who is like it's weird. Like I don't know, it's so
Yeah.
it's just a weird like I don't get it. Like there's so many
Yeah.
fake, unauthentic, people in that space that let's just.
Yeah,
I don't
I
want to
guess
even.
whenever there's a currency, it kind of, I feel like it goes with the territory, It's like there's gonna be always someone, I guess a bit scummy or out to just get a quick buck who's gonna be there. But I guess for
Yeah,
the common folk, us, me and you, I guess the common folk, I guess we still have access to it. So I think maybe it's a good thing in the end, Like,
yeah, exactly. And the thing is that in the introduction, I also mentioned that you're a concept artist as well, and I was wondering, like, first tell the audience as well, like, explain to them what is your main branch of, design and art you're focusing on. Like, all right, it's concept art now. What part of concept art are you specifically, like, working on? Are you a generalist? Are you working on environment or assets, character,
oh,
just
okay.
in general? Because I've seen in your portfolio that you've done a plethora of, like, different various subjects. So tell us that, and also tell us about your experience, like, on this whole journey, basically.
Okay, yeah. So concept art. Okay, I'll try to, I guess, link it in from, where I left off. So I got hired basically when I was in Sin Studio, the school I was being taught at for concept art, I was taking courses there. Like, I was dabbling. Like, I think there's, hopefully, I'm just gonna explain it as if maybe someone doesn't know out there that's listening. Usually, it's like there's two paths, and it's like either it's environment and props when it comes to concept art, or it's characters. And I had a spot in my heart for both. Like I really was like not sure, but I think going to school and experimenting, I decided in the end to be like an environment concept artist. And also, I guess you'd include props there. So I'd be focusing more on, designing landscapes, figuring out like the exteriors and interiors of games, that kind of stuff. The character artist would worry about the characters, and pretty much everything else is the environment artist. So yeah, I got to that, and I tried to gear my portfolio to that kind of job skill set. And at Warner, when I got hired there, I was put on a project, and yeah, my responsibility was to kind of create the exteriors of locations, the mood shots, like trying to sell, the high level vision of what this area will look like, and also designing, basic things like doors and windows or whatnot. So that's kind of like a lot of what the job is. For me, I guess if you take a look at my portfolio right now, I feel like I'm slowly moving towards more like illustrative, more like mood shot, keyframe type of stuff. I seem to be hired on the basis that I'm the kind of guy that I guess pushes the cinematic aspect of the story kind of stuff. So I think I mean, I'm pretty happy with that. That's kind of what I like. But yeah, I guess that's my bread and butter. I know some other guys, they prefer more world building stuff, but I really like to kind of create, beautiful illustrations, beautiful images, like I guess more fleshed out pieces. Yeah. I guess besides that, yeah, I guess I'll let you speak. I don't want to like take up
No,
too
of
much
course,
space.
no. Please go on. If there's anything else, like it's fine, man.
Yeah, I guess that's I guess one thing I can add would be like, I guess, I don't know if people see my art station. It's like I'll have other pieces like that'll be just very like character based. And that's also something I love to do. I love to get into more, figurative stuff, like more illustrative stuff when it comes to character work. For some reason, I can't see myself being a character artist because I don't know. There's something about designing like 10 pairs of pants that kind of rubs me the wrong way. Maybe some people can relate, but yeah, I really like on my spare time to make like more illustrative stuff. Very like old master painting influence kind of stuff, and yeah, just trying to see, like I guess where like the fine art aspect interlocks with concept art, because I don't know. I feel like I get a better payoff as an artist, like a better feeling, like maybe a more meaningful feeling when I do stuff that's like, oh, this is stuff because I want to do it. It's not because like, I'm trying to, gear it towards a game or something, because that's a lot of the stuff that you see in ArtStation nowadays. It's like, oh, this is like for this game, or this could be this, this could be good for a portfolio for this. And then, yeah, like I like to do stuff, I guess nowadays that's a bit more like, oh, that's a thing, or that's an illustration. It's like, it doesn't necessarily look like, I don't know, cyberpunk, or it doesn't, you know what I mean? It doesn't fit into like a box. I guess that's a bit about my art.
All right, and actually, you touched on a certain interesting topic that I also wanted to mention. Actually, recently, let me quickly find it. There was this artist that I'm going to have on the podcast, like in the this September of this year, and Himesh Anand, I think that's his name, and he has a doodle page. Wait, let me if I could quickly find it, because he has he had a quote in one of the highlights of his story that I think was really super fascinating. And all right, I found his page. Let me go to he has 2 pages. Oh, here it is. What it says is, drawing is not a talent, it's an outcome of a skill plus a specific unique talents. For example, some people may have great intuition, some might have great memory, some are better at observation, some are better at memorizing. When these things combine with hours and hours and hours of grinding alone, it turns into a skill. And that skill has to go through another hundreds of hours for it to become a second nature, which people tend to confuse it with natural talent. Now, with that being said, I also love the fact that you also met the thing that you mentioned, and I want to point out is that, and I kind of realized through what you said, is right now, the concept art, basically art like learning art for becoming a concept artist right now, it's mostly lacks those certain qualities of like learning the fine art aspects of things, which is, I think there should be a balance of learning both of like elements of what makes a good piece of work based on different aspects of fundamentals, and at the same time learning the new techniques. Like, for example, there's this whole debate, everyone was first when Photoshop there was keyframes and people were like, oh no, you're cheating if you use color picking, for those stuff, Then there was photo bash, which were like, oh no, this is literally cheating, you need to learn how to texture and draw. And then now people who use Blender, they're straight up saying, dude, you don't know anything, you're cheating. But they're tools and they're great. I mean, if you don't understand the perspectives, you can. By perspectives, I don't mean necessarily the perspective. I mean the viewpoints. And if you don't know them, you can't use them. So yeah, and the thing that I see throughout your artwork, which of course, I mean, I think that's one of the main reasons that they look so appealing and nice, and they've recently, especially the Guardians of the Galaxy ones, have as I said, quote unquote, popped off on social media. Is I think the colors, the composition, everything, it just looks a different level than other people. And like, I'm not saying this, to kind of like just because you're on the guest podcast or stuff. Like I'm being legit. Like the colors, like especially like the one with Maklu IV, like on a planet Maklu, I think that's the name, if I'm not mistaken. There's like a snowy thing. Like it looks insane in terms of composition, specifically for me.
Thank you.
Colors and other stuff aside, like for example, the Lamentis give, by the way, everything that I'm talking about, there's like on YouTube, for anyone who's watching, above us is like a reel of your works right now that keeps looping until the end of the podcast. So everything I'm talking about right now, they can see it as well. Like the cave one, I like the balance of colors of like the shades of blue and green, and it's like, here's the thing that I really like about that, a little bit of like the shades of green that's on those like tube like things that plants, I think. It kind of, it's a really nice balance. It's pleasing to eye. I don't know. It's kind of like complements the rest of the colors in the piece. Like those little stuff is what separates like people who actually know the fundamentals of fine art and practice it, or like from the people who just quickly just basically what I'm trying to say. They usually speedrun art. They try to speedrun getting into the industry. All right, I like Blender. I like Photobash. All right. Oh, I'm just gonna make the most generic, basic ass pieces of work that I could, and post it and just spam it everywhere. And oh my god, like
it's a part of the journey though. Like I think we all get kind of into this field because we see something that's very impressive and we want like a how-to like recipe. We want it like step 1 to step 10 and like boom, boom, boom. How do I get the result kind of thing? And that's great. Like, I think that there's a space in any artist's journey to do that. But yeah, I like what you said about, I guess, thank you for the compliments, first of all. Like, that's very, very nice of you. But yeah, like, we can kind of dig into at least, I guess, some of the composition stuffs, because it is a good point. The thing I think that separates, let's say, someone who's just getting into this and someone who's like kind of taking it more seriously and wants to like really embody, I guess, those, and I'm going to say it, this is the magic word, fundamentals, like the basics, is really that dedication to understanding like what makes a piece of art work. Like, how does a composition work? What moves the eye properly? What is pleasing? What's a pleasing read, from a distance versus close? All that kind of stuff was, I think, super important, at least in my work when I started, because there was that disconnect where like I knew, like, I would go to school, I would learn these techniques like photo bashing, and I don't know what techniques. I guess 3D now is the technique. Now it's AI, so things are moving along. But I was learning all these techniques, but there would be this gap in understanding between, let's say, my stuff at the time and like the guys I was looking at, which was, I guess, hopefully, like A. Tanzana, like Jamie Jones, like Craig Mullins. There's a gap that I just couldn't understand. And I guess after studying them a lot and studying what they were studying, the gap was those art fundamentals. Like, these guys who were doing these amazing pieces, this crazy compositions, like, they just understood the basics at like another level. They would basically, be like these fun, I guess it's like, the Bruce Lee quote, like, the 10,000 kicks versus one kick quote. I don't want to say it because it's probably going to ruin it. And there's probably a bunch of Bruce Lee fans who are going to get mad at me. But yeah, like, these guys were like the type of guys who practiced like that, that one kick 10,000 times, which would be, I guess, lighting or composition, that kind of stuff. They weren't trying to learn like 10,000 different techniques, if that makes any sense.
A great example of what you said is there's this artist, I don't know, I forgot his name, that he is on a challenge of like, doing sketches every day with an MS Paint. Just amazing, insane like landscapes with MS Paint, and they all look so gorgeous. And exactly what you said. Master, just practice one kick 10,000 times rather than try to become a master of none, basically. And if I find his name, for anyone who's listening, I'm sorry if I'm gonna check out after the recording to see where it is. I'll put it on the stories, just as a reference. And another thing that I want to mention is, do you know Ahmed Al-Duri?
I'm familiar with him.
Yeah, he was on the podcast as well, like last year. And a great example is that he also, dropped a course called Meds Map last year, which was, specific for, fundamentals of art and just digital drawing, and also specifically portrait drawing for characters and stuff like that. And just in the first 2 modules of his course, honestly, I'm by the way, it sounds like I'm trying to sponsor, or, I don't get paid, I'm just saying like how it is. In the first 2 lessons, which was about like, rendering and coloring, in the shortest amount of time, he managed to explain the techniques of coloring and how to color pick, not color pick necessarily, like to color pick, like how to pick a color, basically, when you have, for example, this type of shade, what to do. And it was just so intuitive. And that's the difference between like, someone who's really like, have been deep into the fundamentals, and rather than, someone who barely just finished the course and now has a job in the industry, let's say. Because here's the thing, for a lot of people that are listening, just because you're in the industry doesn't mean you're necessarily a great artist. I know I might take some flack for it, but it's true. I mean, like, it means a certain lot of things. Sure, a great work ethic, basic understanding of the stuff. You made your portfolio, you put in your hours. But you see, even a lot of artists in the industry that they still lack in some areas. And I mean, it's if they do the job for the IP they're working on, that's enough. It just means that they have a skill enough for that. It doesn't mean necessarily they're great artists. And I want people to understand, if you want to become like among the top, earners, and you like, because let's be real, money is one of the biggest motivations for most people, even artists, just all humans. Nothing new here.
It helps. It definitely helps.
Yes, it does. It does, man.
Yeah.
So if you want to get those big projects, I think, and it's not even an art in everything. Fundamentals is everything. Like, honestly, it sounds so cliche, but it's true.
Yeah,
it's a shame.
it really is the foundation of your work. It's like, I don't know if you've I guess we can talk about it, but like, I've met a lot of artists in my day, and some people they ignore it. Some people, even in the industry, they'll have some sort of fundamental basis, but some people ignore it, and I think the quality of your work will suffer over time if it's not addressed. Like, it's one of those things where it's like health. It's like, if you don't exercise and don't eat right, you can get by maybe in your 20s, but when you get older and people start, you just look at ArtStation over the last 10 years, it's like the quality is, it keeps getting better. Like, there's always like some artist that comes out of nowhere. They're like, holy, like, who are you? It's like, that's like literally every week nowadays. So it's like, it's one of those things where, like, you just have to kind of like put the hours in, study it, and really understand it and embody it, so that no matter what kind of work situation you're put in, you'll have those tools and you'll be able to like use those principles to, I guess, be effective artists.
Now, speaking of like, the generational progress of like, inequality, that you kind of briefly mentioned, is that, I mean, I talked about him a couple of times in the podcast. There's, 15, 16-year-old, like, basically super talented kid called William Landgren. He's like a Blender artist, and his stuff looks amazing. He even was on an Andrew Price podcast once. Not just him. I was browsing Instagram the other day, and I was just, going through, as always, when you're bored and you're just browsing your explore page and you're just going to see different reels, that type of thing. And I came upon like, a certain guy who was like doing like he was basically showing the process of making like he was a graphic designer of, making a poster. And he brought like a newspaper from his grandparents' attics, and he cut pieces of it, a scanned bunch, and like made assets out of the graphics in those newspaper, and just made this amazing looking vintage but just original poster. And I was like, oh, cool, let me check out this page. And he had like 4 or 5 videos, and in the bio said 15-year-old graphic artist, and I was like, what?
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's like weird how young people are, man. It's crazy.
And not just that, let me give you another example. Are you into the genre of horror, like analog horror and stuff like that? Or
I'm a baby. Analog. I've never heard of that. What is analog horror? What is this?
I'm gonna be honest, I don't know, but I know it's a certain different, like a certain genre of horror. Like, I know it's a thing, but I don't know how to define it. Okay. Basically, for anyone who's listening, and you honestly, like, one of the few times that a piece of media made me actually like, like instill this sense of paranoia in me, that kind of fear, was like, Mandala catalog videos by Alex Kisser. Now, Alex Kisser, he's 18, and he's right now, I think he has like 300,000 subscribers. And by the way, he deserves it. Like, his stuff is actually legit. It's crazy, honestly. I'm kind of lost for words how these new generations are just, outpacing everyone.
It's really, really like cool to see. I think it's because of the I think it's obvious. Like, the level of education and the quantity of education now is so accessible, and you could be anywhere in the world and learn how to master Photoshop, how to master Blender, and that just wasn't the case. Like, 20 years ago, there was maybe like, I don't know how,
even 12, 13 years ago. Why go that far?
Yeah, like back then it's like you had to like scrape some money to like buy Nomon DVDs, and they would just, they would come in physical format. Like, that would be like your ticket to the industry, like education. But now all you have to do is like type in like, I want to learn how to make cool landscape, and you get like endless content. It's really crazy.
And not just that, I think one of the big factors to this issue is also the fact that being an artist right now is cool relatively compared to before. Like,
really? Never thought of it like that.
No, honestly, like, it's true. Like, and not just that, look at game industry, look how big it's getting. It's kind of like, rivaling like even entertainment, like not entertainment, Jesus, my brain is lagging.
I know what you mean.
Like film and cinema, basically, and music, like music compared to video games is not, it doesn't make that much money compared to video game industry right now.
Oh,
and
yeah.
Speaking of in the video game industry, I received some horrible, depressing news like the other day from I think Todd Howard was on a press conference that he mentioned that, of course, their work after Starfield, I think it's their next game, if I'm not mistaken, which
I heard
looks
about
kind of
it.
cool. And after that, they're going to work on Elder Scrolls 6. And the horrible news is after Elder Scrolls 6, they're going to work on Fallout 5. And I did a little bit of calculation, and I'm going to be like, damn, I'm going to be 45 by then. No, I'm not kidding. Like,
yeah. How old are you? I'm just curious.
I turned 25 like literally 2 weeks later. Like,
oh, okay, great.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, I finished 25. Like.
Oh, you're finished. Okay. Cool.
Yeah, I'm born in 1997.
Yeah. Okay, so you're my brother's age. That's cool. I'm just curious, like, how do you fit? Like, I've just met you, but how do you fit into this whole art world? Like, what's your kind of story? What do you go for?
All right. My main thing I'm focused right now that I want to in the future work on is become a 3D artist, specifically like hard surface artist for props and just vehicles, spaceships. And I was actually I was in a horrible creative block. Today specifically happens a lot, and I just opened up my Blender file of kitbash assets I have, and I just started working with them. It's better than nothing, and I actually kind of like the result. And just
cool.
So in general, and not just hard surface, like I love 3D a lot. I want to later on as a hobby learn sculpting and stuff like that as well. And I really love environments after that. Just I love environments, assets, basically concept design, world building, that stuff like that. But character is not my sort of jazz, like kind of the same thing you said. Like I love writing characters. That's the huge. I love writing characters and stories, but not so good with design. When it comes to characters. And basically, in a nutshell, I kind of told this story a couple of times before, but I'm gonna quickly, say it, since you asked now. The thing is that since I was a kid, I've always been like a creative kid, but due to the environment I was in, whether it was family and outside in the society, schools, it was always like got blocked off that creativity in me. It was just dead,
Oh,
and
okay.
one day I think it was a month before I was going to university, and of course, by the way, just spoiler alert, I dropped out. I never finished university, thank God. And the thing is, I was just googling my name because I remember when I was a kid, I was in a forum before, which was a video game discussion forum, and I would try to find that profile. So I typed my name in Google, and I just as curiosity search images. And one of the images was like a really cool concept art. And I was like, what's that? And I clicked on that. It was by a guy named Ramtin Saidi. He had the first name as me. That's why it popped up. And
Nice.
that was the first time I understood, wait, he's a concept artist? What is concept? You can be... Oh, like that was one of those like eureka moments for me, And I actually messaged the guy. It was a nice, chill dude. And since that time, the implantation of wanting to be involved in the game industry, was kind of like the hope was reignited again that it's possible. It's a thing, actually. People make money off it. Damn. Because before that, I didn't have much info, and I never had that kind of motivation to do research. I was basically creativity and like spiritually kind of dead for most of my teenage years. I know it sounds depressing because it was. And basically before that, it was just coding and you have to be a code geek to be able to make video games. Technically yes, but practically no. And especially now, you don't need to know much code, fortunately. And then what happened was I went into university. I dropped out. I first changed majors. I went to computer science, and I realized, I shouldn't have been here anyway. Then I dropped out again. And during this whole time, the most amount of time I was putting towards anything was art. So when I was 16, the first, by the way, program I ever opened and used and learned was Adobe Illustrator, because I was like, people are making money with art. Like, my big brain, like, my brain cells were
what
like,
if?
yeah, what if, like, because I never, like, consider art, like, digital art as we know right now, because I didn't know better that would be good money makers. I tried to get into becoming a graphic designer, and I actually, I'm going to get into that later. But that graphic design also helped me a lot later on, in my future projects, which is the podcast, for example, So another point that I want to say, like, anything you learn in life and you don't become professional at it, it's not wasted thing. It completes a piece of the puzzle in later times, and it's so true. And yeah, I got involved with graphic design. Then after that, I still am. I'm in love with merch design and just fashion design and stuff like that. And actually, like, t-shirt design is one of my favorite passions, honestly. And I've done that a lot.
Really?
And I tried to get into a fashion studio in Turkey, which I did a lot of work on my portfolio and everything. Which right now that I think of it, they look pretty mid. Like, some of them look good, but it wasn't that much. But again, you need time to actually improve your quality. But then in the end, after going all over the place, I opened up Photoshop for the first time, like, last year, and it was a complete new, like it sounds weird because you're like, oh my god, this guy hasn't properly learned Photoshop till he was 23. Yes, that's true. And yeah, I started learning that. There was a lot of bumps in the road, and I still know Photoshop to, like, a good level, and I try to learn actually digital art and concept art and environment art. After a couple of months, I opened up Blender, and everything in 3D clicked so much faster for me, like, rather than 2D. So I realized, oh, this is so fun, and I'm actually talented. And talent is a true thing. What I mean by that, yes, if someone, like, starts,
nowadays,
yeah, exactly, people say,
yeah,
people try to say talent doesn't exist. It exists, but hard work is always triumphs. I mean, no doubt, but talent exists.
Yeah.
And it's super helpful if you discover your talent. And one of the most obvious best way to find your talent is just to try as many things as possible. Because one of the biggest issues for me, even, which I had for years, was, I didn't know what to do because I loved everything. People don't know, young guys don't know what to do at all.
Yeah.
Young guys and gals.
Polar opposite problem.
Yeah, a lot of people don't like anything then don't know what to do. But for me, it was just so torturous.
Too many choices. Yeah.
Like,
what do I commit to, kind of thing.
There was a paradox named after it. I forgot. Paradox of choice. Well, that's the name. And when you have, like, for example, you go to a supermarket and you want to buy a ketchup sauce, and there's, like, 27 different options, and you're like, bruh, like, you don't know which one to pick.
Yeah. I always had a interesting way of thinking. I think there's I think it was Vitaly Bulgarov. Do you know Vitaly Bulgarov?
Oh, absolutely, yes.
Oh yeah, of course. Okay, good. Anyways, I think he said this quote once for, like, I think, like, let's say you have a bunch of things you're interested in, and I feel like I have that in somewhat the same, maybe not as wide, but definitely I can relate to it. I remember him saying that I guess the thing you should do, maybe butchering it, but the thing you should do, the thing that you should really commit to is something you don't mind suffering for. Like, you don't mind the pain when it gets hard. Like, so if you have, let's say, 5 different art endeavors, like, you like 3D, you like painting, you like whatever, rigging, who knows, like, which one has the process that when things get hard, you don't mind, like, you're like, this is worth it, because I remember trying a bunch of processes. I actually tried 3D. I tried CAD modeling. I did everything, voxels, all that kind of stuff. Especially CAD. Like, I was doing CAD modeling, and I spent, like, maybe at least 4 or 5 months on a project. I wanted to blow my brains out around, like, the 3-month mark. I was like, I can't take this anymore. I'm just like, although when it was getting hard to the point where it's just like, I'm not having any fun anymore. But for me, when I'm in Photoshop, when I'm doing, like, 2-day painting, I realize that, things get hard, but I'm like, oh man, like, it's worth it. Like, this is hard, but, like, I really want to solve this problem. Like, I'm really into this. Like, there's a sort of a flow that kind of comes out of it, So I feel like that's super important, that people should realize that you may have a bunch of stuff that you're really into, but, like, which one is something that you're actually you would like to sacrifice. Let's say your need for, I don't know, everything has to go perfectly right. Like, which one are you really willing to, take the I guess the hard times for?
Yeah, and exactly, that's such an interesting point because like with 3D, I was like excited the other day because I wanted to just quickly fall asleep so I can next day I could wake up and start learning Substance Painter because I recently downloaded it and actually want to learn textures properly and not just use the shader editor of Blender. And yeah, that's the thing. You basically, when in your field, when you gain momentum, it's so much easier to start learning new things and you move forward as you go. And by the way, just
Oh,
a huge
definitely.
warning to anyone who's listening to the recent subjects we talked about. Do keep in mind that yes, sometimes it's not as straightforward as it seems when it comes to finding your passion and the thing you really love for that is worth suffering for you. But the thing is, you get a hint for it. You don't necessarily sometimes get it as straightforward, and you should
Mm.
take that hint and try to cultivate that passion, because I genuinely believe that passion is cultivated as well. It's not just oh my. I mean, sometimes I see it, but it's so rare that sometimes
Yeah,
it's love at first sight for some people. That's so rare. Like for a
yeah.
long time, I was seriously like pursuing martial arts. Actually, I was actually one of my goals was
Oh,
to
nice.
come to Montreal and go to TriStar gym. Do you know that?
Oh, of course, yeah. With Firas,
Firasa. Yeah, actually,
yeah.
that was my goal like 3 years ago, but my visa got rejected.
Oh no.
Yeah, my story is kind of wild and all over the place. Honestly, I've tried everything basically in my life till I found here. But yeah, I mean, even like for example, I signed up for because my wrestling wasn't bad, my jiu-jitsu wasn't bad, so my striking was just trash, like
Oh,
absolutely
nice.
trash. And so I signed up for Muay Thai class like here, and there was this Thai coach, like one of those old school Thai guys, in from Thailand who was, more our Muay Thai coach. And
Mm.
let me just say this, after the third session, after the first session, my my whole body was in complete pain tomorrow, because it's not like
Yeah,
bodybuilding that you just do some workouts and your muscles are so no, my friend amigo,
different.
no,
Yeah,
no,
it's
your
different. Yeah,
joints, your every single muscle you didn't know it exists starts. And especially like
yeah.
the shin conditioning, the bone conditioning, not just your muscles, your bones actually hurt as well, so that's a different kind of
Oh yeah, especially
animal.
jujitsu and like people are trying to break them. You're like,
Oh
there's such
yeah.
stress on the body. It's really really not the same.
No, actually, Muay Thai is more punishing than Jiu-Jitsu. Jiu-Jitsu was way easier. It was
Oh yeah,
sweet, actually.
you're bashing bones against each other.
Oh,
Yeah, for sure.
yes.
Elbows and
And
stuff.
after the third session, I legit was like, angry at myself and cursing myself on my way. I remember it was night. While I was walking towards the bus station, I was like, what the hell are you doing? You want to become an artist? Like, why do you put yourself through these challenges? And and I'm not saying like I was this disciplined guy or anything. I'm not disciplined person, like, honestly. But
Okay.
at the time, I realized that all right, if I want to become good at it, I need to suck it up and just go on autopilot mode. So without knowing, I
Mm.
actually unlocked, like in video games, unlocked the skill of discipline.
Oh yeah.
And
Perfect.
yeah, discipline is basically going on autopilot and doing it. That's it. This is not complicated at all. That's literally it. And yeah, I stick to it. And after 5-6 months, I actually like got super good at the striking, but Corona hit, so I could never compete.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
that's
it
fun.
was kind of weird, but that was like a good sign, because when I stuck in home and I started to reevaluate my life, I was like, oh, all right, I shouldn't waste so much time, on martial arts. Yeah, I should work out, but what are you doing? Like, I basically had this. I always have this talks with myself, but it felt like everything, as I said before, it's like a piece of puzzle that comes in handy some other time, you know.
Yeah, yeah. Like it'll probably find you'll port over the wisdom or the philosophies you find in martial arts, and you'll find it in, let's say, art or 3D modeling. You'll like find a parallel, and it'll finally make sense, sort of thing. I guess that's what you mean.
Yeah, not just like kind of like that, but I mean, maybe like the skills I learned could become handy some other time in life. Like for example, the skills I learned for graphic design came in clutch really well when I wanted to do editing for my podcast and thumbnails. Basically, for podcasts, I'm a one man band. I do everything, like from video editing, audio editing, like all the graphics stuff, like just everything. Like I don't pay
Okay.
an editor or something. And if and honestly, if I didn't make those trials and errors during those early years of wanting to become a graphic designer, the quality wouldn't be so like as well as it is today. I'm not saying that it's perfect right now, like in terms of everything, but it's something that I'm actually happy with.
Yeah.
And especially if you see the latest, episodes I uploaded in terms of graphics, because till episode 149 it was pretty basic, and I upped the ante, and actually it's actually nice looking, format. If you go check the Instagram page, and so yeah, that's what I'm trying to say. And actually, the reason I by the way say that Muay Thai thing is because I had a hint of, there was a hint that I like this. I need to learn this. I'm interested in this. I enjoy this. I like the history of Muay Thai and martial arts. But here's the thing: if I quit after the third session, I would have never achieved anything. Basically, it would have been just, oh, I tried Muay Thai, but now I can say I basically know Muay Thai as an amateur level. And and here's the thing: the reason that I managed to go forward with it because of the discipline. The discipline made me continue for a couple of more weeks. And what happens after a couple of more weeks of training? You get momentum, you improve. And what happens after that? You get motivated. That makes it the cycle of becoming good at something.
It's a circle. Yeah, definitely.
And it's with art and anything. Like first, if you like 3D, and here's the thing, by the way, I didn't mention this. At first, when it was in, I think, 2019, I downloaded Blender for the first time. I think it was a 2.79 version. I tried the donut tutorial as everyone does. It's a tradition. And after 2 episodes, I dropped it and I didn't touch it for a year and a half. I was just doing the t-shirt design stuff. I was doing the graphic design stuff. I was doing just everything, all over the place because I haven't really found my passion because I liked everything. So it was hard to choose.
Yeah.
When
definitely.
you like everything, don't try to find the things that you don't try to find the thing that you like. Find the thing that you're talented in. That's what happened to me accidentally, and I'm glad it happened. And after 2 years, I opened up Blender again. Actually, early 2022. That's when I seriously got started with 3D again. It's been pretty recent, 6 months. It's not that much. And I started, and I didn't want to open up any tutorial because I was an analogy I could make, it was the third session of the Muay Thai class. I was kind of it was a big struggle for me, but I pushed through. I started to just play around with Blender interface as much as I could. I learned little stuff, and I made a really silly looking blocky spaceship as my first project. And I didn't know anything about shading, so I just downloaded a bunch of PBR shaders from someone on Garmo, which was free. Yeah, that was my first piece. Then after that, I was like, wait, I actually made something. And it was so cool. So then I went back to the donut tutorial again after 2 years. And lo and behold, Andrew Price at the time, updated the tutorial. So it was a perfect time. I was like, hell yeah, let's go. And I actually did that and I finished it. And I was so happy, but there was I can't believe I learned so much stuff. Oh, no. But at the time, it wasn't that much, of course. But for a newbie like me, at the time, it was a lot. But then I got momentum. The same with the Muay Thai story. Then it came on and kept going.
It's so important. It's
until
that
today.
Fire.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's that fire that you kind of have to... Getting the flame started is the tricky part because everyone has their own way. But once that fire is going, it's just keep adding coal or whatever to the engine, picturing a train. The train is super heavy, but just as it gets going, it's then it becomes unstoppable. It's it's actually harder to stop than than to keep going. But yeah, man, discipline is so important. I don't know, depending on your viewers who's listening, if it's people who are students or people who are trying to find, I guess that fire or whatever it is. What's some things you would tell people nowadays, if they were because that's a big how do I say it, struggle.
Yeah,
I hear a lot, especially with my students and stuff like that. It's sometimes they don't want to do their work or they don't want to continue or whatever. What would you probably tell them?
Well, I mean, it depends a lot when someone, gets into that rut of not wanting to do anything and, gets into that kind of depressive state. I mean, there's a lot of factors as well, but all in all, I mean, it depends on the person as well. But if I want to give a general answer is that always, this is something that works for me. One of the things, I always have a mood board of works that inspire me that I just like to look at. I just open it up and just, stare at it for a while. Then after that, after that, I open up Blender and I delete the default cube and I just try to mess around with the shapes. I check Pinterest to get ideas. And even today, I was in and such an extreme level of like, kind of like mental block and creative block specifically. I didn't know what to do. I did all the tutorials I had on my watch later list, and I was kind of like, all right, what should I learn for next? And I wasn't, by the way, I wasn't in the mood to do the course that I bought. Listen, I've been progressing it, like gradually as I go, but I wasn't in the mood to do that also. I was left in nothing. So what I did was, I guess this applies only to 3D. So, sorry for Photoshop or just concept art digital 2D people. So I have like a kit bash file, and I just opened that and I started playing with shapes, and compositions and everything. And it started to, turn into something. So I went on with it. I tried to, basically, long story short, 6 hours later, I came up with a thing and actually finished modeling like 50 minutes before I get on the call. And I wanted to do the texturing, but I was like, nah, I'm just going to wait and do this after the podcast because I want to also learn some new techniques in Substance Painter as well. So yeah, basically, just if you like make everything easy to do, like prepare everything, like the kit bash file that I have, it's like you're playing with Legos at that point, and it literally is. And that's something that's really helpful. But
just making it easier to start, like having it all ready, so you just have to sit down and it's just you just get into it.
Make some coffee, put you on our Spotify playlist, and
coffee.
Like honestly, I don't know. I think what I'm going to say is super subjective and anecdotal as well. But I mean, I don't know if you feel like this, but I rarely get any enjoyment out of movies or series or video games or YouTube anymore. Like I rarely. Like I don't watch Twitch at all anymore, which I used to do a lot last year. And like for example, the thing that really hypes me up, like I feel happy when I think about it, is if I manage to, like for example, get a good result on this texture and it looks good in this lighting. Like this is the type of stuff that goes into my mind. It's because I got that momentum that I needed. And yes, just find something, like basically make a Venn diagram. And one of the diagrams is, things you love. One of them is the things you're talented at, and then things there's a future. And you make these Venn diagrams and you find the stuff that you should try them. 100% one of them is the thing that you're passionate about, and it's going to be your job, probably. That's super helpful. And by the way, I just need to mention that I hope everyone who's listening by far are really enjoying it, and I've been loving this conversation by now. We've only covered 2 questions and we're at 57 minutes, and just means how awesome this podcast has been, this episode. And you got shocked for a second.
Yeah, great. I'm having a good time. This is cool.
Yeah, man, I'm glad.
Yeah, like a lot of deep stuff. Like I remember, man, I don't know if you can resonate, but when I was, I don't know, it's kind of cheesy, but like up and coming. When I was kind of, I guess, leaving college and going into like the concept art learning mode, it's like there's a specific, like, I don't know, I guess mindset or frame that I got into that I think is like super helpful for anyone trying to break in. And it's like this, it's kind of like this insatiable hunger to just learn as much as you can. You want to improve as much as you can. It's like almost like a fire that once it's lit, it's like video games, movies will just feel like a complete waste of time. It's like your time becomes super, super valuable, and you have your eyes like locked on like a vision of like where you want your work to be. It could be like a certain artist that you're like, I want my work to be like this guy, like this guy's so good. So like, at least that's what I did. I had like a direction, but like once that fire is starting, it's like you kind of go into like this mini obsession that can honestly last, like, at least for me, it lasts like 3-4 years. Like, I'm kind of happy I'm out of it right now, but I feel like it's one of those things everyone needs to go through, at least starting. So there's just so much space that has to be covered nowadays. Like people are getting so good that the benchmark is raising, but at the same time, there's more educational content. So it's like, you just need to put the effort in. You need to find a way that works for you. Like you said, the circle, like, what does your circle look like? How does the rituals of your day work? Like, how do you make it so you continue to learn and to continue to get the train moving faster and faster and faster until you hit your goal? So.
Yeah. And honestly, here's the thing. There's a couple of things I also want to ask, before we jump into the next subject, which is like, I guess we were talking about your works, when we got into this conversation, but like, for example, And like I just want to say, one of the things works that I really like is those designs of rooms of different characters in the Guardians Galaxy game. Like there's Rocket's room, there's
Oh yeah.
Drax. Like legit. This is the type of art that like 15-year-old my 15-year-old self would have saved on my some folder in my thing. I just love this stuff. I don't know why. Like this room designs and stuff. Like it feels like it belongs in a video game. Newsflash, it does.
Oh, yeah. Good thing. Glad to hear it.
Yeah, and he also worked on Marvel's Avengers game, and I was just wondering in general. I just want to ask this: which one is like between these two were your favorite to work on, and not just work on? Also, have you played them or are you a fan?
Oh, okay. So I preferred working on Guardians, but it was mainly because there was more artistic liberty in that game. I worked on the Avengers on a smaller team, and we were kind of doing like a very small set of levels because the company called Crystal Dynamics, that was their game. Like Avengers really belonged to them, so they had all the artistic liberty. They had the main art director was there. So our team was kind of like, we just kind of had to do the best we can with what we had. And on Guardians, I got to actually work with the art director like directly. Like we would talk, he would come to my desk. So I found I had way more artistic liberty working on that project. And the art style was way like more fun for me. Like I did like Avengers, but I felt like on Guardians, man, like I don't think I've ever felt more uncomfortable in a project than that, because like every brief would just be like something completely different that made no sense. They'd be like the brief would be like, hey, design this alien I don't know, toaster, or like it could be some crazy thing, it could be like a food stand, and then the reference would be like spaghetti patterns, and they're like, figure it out. And they're like, okay. So it's like I had to go into like a lot of that creative mode that is very explorative. Like it's not like, okay, make it post-apocalyptic and then you just look at a bunch of post-apocalyptic stuff that already exists. It's like, no, make this thing that we're giving you some guidelines, but really we have no idea. Like you show us what it could be. So for me, that was super rewarding, and working with the art director Bruno was great. Like learned a ton. Regarding playing the games, I didn't play Avengers. Honestly, I know the campaign was pretty fun. I've heard good things about it. I'm the type of guy who like, I'll get games and like I actually won't open them, or I'll play for like maybe 10 hours and I'll be like, oh, this game is awesome. And then like, I just won't get back on it for some reason. So I played Guardians maybe 6 to 8 hours, and I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a really cool game. I don't know. Did you play them or?
Not yet, actually. Here's the thing. As I said before, I've kind of been having a hard time like trying to enjoy anything recently. But there's one game that after 10 years I still absolutely love and enjoy and learn and find new things in it. Is Fallout New Vegas.
Okay.
It's my favorite game of all time since I was 12, and
Nice.
Honestly. And here's a sad thing is that, and the reason, by the way, I said that I have sad, horrible news and I said Fallout 5 news is because of that, because I love Fallout franchise, but it's not been in recent years doing very good at all. But Fallout New Vegas, I think, was a peak, honestly, because it's such an amazing game. And I recently installed it again because I didn't know what to do. Whenever you don't know what to do, you just go New Vegas again, because you find new things again.
Yeah.
And I'm one of those obsessive gamers. It's not like I miss out anything, but I still find new things, like new unique items, new quests, new events, like Jesus. And they made that game in a 1.5 year time crunch. Amazing.
That's not a lot of time.
Yeah, exactly. And I also played like Mad Max game recently because the thing that happened with Fallout New Vegas is there was this bug that kept stuck in a forever loading screen, and I couldn't play anymore. And I tried everything that was on the net, but there's no solution to it, essentially. And that's kind of unfortunate. But I still wanted the taste of that nice deserty post-apocalyptic setting. I love post-apocalyptic settings, by the way. Whether it be solar punk or just your normal average cliche post-apocalyptic stuff. I downloaded Mad Max. It's post-apocalyptic. It's pretty deserty. It's still kind of like it's the same setting as New Vegas. So I don't know. Have you tried Mad Max from 2016?
No, I have not.
I only played it for 1 hour, 2 hour, but then after a while, the game loop felt repetitive to me. But the world building, the graphics, the car gameplay, the combat was good, but it's just I had a problem with the gameplay loop,
Oh, okay.
And yeah, basically I have nothing right now in my, the only software I have on my Steam is literally Blender. I'm not kidding.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I mean, that's about it. I will try Guardians of Galaxy because just I'm not kidding for the art, because sometimes you play a game just to enjoy the music, sometimes you play a game just for the art, sometimes you play a game just for the gameplay mechanic,
definitely.
And I will give Guardians of the Galaxy a shot because I've seen a couple of streamers play it well, and the visuals looked good. I'm interested to see how it is.
That's good to hear. Yeah, it got some. It was weird because it got good reception, but it kind of flew. It's a weird one because it kind of flew under the radar on a lot of people. It was a very unexpected sort of game. Got good reviews, but wasn't maybe as. It's not like I guess a Call of Duty that's kind of like it's in the spotlight. It's it's like Call of Duty. It just coming out and everyone's losing their mind or whatever. Guardians was just it kind of just appeared, and I think people are liking it. So yeah, it's
Wait, is it just single player?
Yeah, it's a campaign. It's a story driven. Yeah.
And it's such a shame, and it is literally such a shame that single player experiences are getting not enough attention. But I think I don't want to sound like one of those boomers, but honestly, this generation, the people that say my generation was this, well, your generation is that. But I mean, honestly, this generation is just the attention spans are getting much shorter, and
oh yeah.
By the way, we're all victims of it. I am sometimes I without realizing I get stuck on Instagram for 15 minutes. I'm
you just scroll endlessly.
Yeah, time
you just
to put this thing away and go get some fresh air,
Yeah.
And the thing is, even with single player stuff, because it needs actual attention, and for example, a game like Fallout, it requires really long and good attention and attention to detail and stuff. If you want to, dude, there's
it's a hard game to just start and just stop. It's you have to either been fully in or else don't even bother kind of thing.
Exactly. And here's the thing, there was this location in Fallout in West when I described it when I was 12, and it's one of my fondest gaming memories, was that basically on top of a Black Mountain is part of a quest. On the top of Black Mountain, there's this radio tower, there's this super mutant that's kind of jailed herself in, and we have to kind of talk to her or defeat her or something like that. And to get to her, essentially, basically, if you're a good Fallout player, you open every log, you read every book, you read every note, you read every terminal computer you find, because you find actually good info. Because the world building and environment storytelling is much more richer than just, there's a blood here, so there must be there. That's the most storytelling and extent of a storytelling studios usually go to these days. But the storytelling was rich. The writing was rich. Everything was perfect. I mean, in my subjective opinion, I'm not saying it was objectively whatever, but if you wanted to get to her room, you need to find the keys that was under the stairs, hidden under the stairs outside. And they didn't design the keys to make it obvious. You need to actually learn this through notes so you can then find it, But the thing is, at the time, I didn't find the keys, by reading the terminal. I was I still am a bit, but I'm better. I have really bad OCD, I hoard every item, I check every corner, and because of that, I actually found the keys. But the thing is that even this, it doesn't make it easy. The game didn't make it easy. It made you look forward. It made you work for it. It just doesn't hand you. Oh, here's the item.
It didn't treat you like a lot of games treat you now, where they kind of they think you're dumb and they kind of walk you through it. They actually assume that you're, you have attention span, you have skills to explore. It's you can handle more, I guess. Would that be a good way to put it? Or
Yeah, I guess in a sense, yeah. And I mean, it's kind of, I understand, why, like, for example, in 2007-18, when Fortnite and PUBG were, like, popping off, like, a
oh yeah,
lot. That's, I think, one of the most pivotal moments in gaming industry, in history of gaming industry, that, a direction of a lot of games got changed. And I'm not just necessarily talking about, oh, everything added battle royale. I mean, yeah, sure, but not just that. I mean, everything became like multiplayer, like everything just geared towards multiplayer experiences. And honestly, it's a shame. It's a shame because like the experiences you get in a single player RPG is not. I mean, of course, I love multiplayer games. I play with my mates all the time in the different games, so like Valheim, Fall Flat, Gang Beasts. It's all fun.
oh yeah, Gang Beasts, yeah.
Yeah, it's so chaotic, man. It's so chaotic.
Beauty
Among
of
Us,
it.
like recently, they're coming out with a VR version, which actually looks kind of cool. And the thing about Among Us VR is that the hand gestures actually now play a role. It's such a nuanced thing, but it's super important when you're like playing a game of like Mafia or poker or stuff like that, because you can actually now read the body language of the guy.
Okay. So if you kind of like interrogate someone, you actually see it's only his arms. You said, right? His hands.
Yeah, head and arms. Yeah.
And okay. So you'll just see this kind of stuff. Okay, that's interesting.
No, but it's
I don't like that game. I'm a terrible liar. I tried once and like I had like a slight hesitancy in my voice, and they're like kill him, it's him, and it's like I actually wasn't even the guy. It's just because I spoke. I was just like, oh hey guys. They just thought there was something suspicious about me, so they just booted me.
No, it's really not fun if you play those games with people who have no actual like analytical skills or anything. Like even if you're not a good liar, if you pay attention, you can actually really well catch the imposter. And the thing is, I actually got kicked out of a bunch of servers because I was catching imposters so fast. And I'm not saying like I'm so great at the game, but I like. Here's the thing, I don't get into anything, but when I do, I get in it hardcore.
Okay.
And like I was like just kind of like Matrix. I was just paying attention to everything. Like I actually became good at the game. Then a bunch of my friends, their friends, like you have mutuals, you play with mutuals, they kicked me out of their servers. Like he's not making it fun for everyone. And I wasn't being toxic or anything. I was just being fun and happy, making jokes. But just because I could catch people red-handed like so well, because I was like, all right, he was there, then last round. Oh, that's him. And yeah, stuff like that.
Maybe the wrong elo. Maybe you need to be in like a higher rate or something.
But there's no elos in Among Us. But there should be. Okay. That's so weird. It should be. Yeah. And
you'll just be up on the top with all the psychopaths, like all the psychopaths are together. So
oh my god, but yeah, I kind of feel bad because you have to actually lie well,
Oh yeah, you have to be like poker face.
And I hate lying, and honestly,
me too.
I hate lying.
That's why it's the worst. Yeah.
Like I betrayed the trust of a lot of my friends that day. After those games, they didn't look at me the same way. It was so weird. But all in all, it's a fun game. And there's also the interesting thing, because of Among Us, we realized that a lot of like, just testimonies in court, witness testimonies in courts are just so not reliable, because someone just come and say, oh, I saw him there, and without
like further much memory issue, like people's memory aren't as good as what they claim it to be, kind of thing. I remember like hearing on like Joe Rogan, they're talking about that, like witnesses like actually like the memory being so malleable and so unreliable that it doesn't even hold up in court a lot of the time.
Yeah. That honestly, that seems kind of not completely valid. And here's the thing, like and not just us, but I mean, all in all, for anyone who's listening, I try to give like old RPGs a chance. By old RPGs, I don't mean necessarily like 90s RPGs like Fallout 1 or Fallout 2, but like games like Fallout 3 or Fallout New Vegas or Skyrim. I mean, it's so weird that Skyrim is now considered relatively old. It's 11 years old game. I can't believe it. Are we old now?
Oh, we're
Are we,
definitely old.
are we the
Yeah,
next old people?
yeah, we're super old. Yeah,
I'm having one of those moments right now. Like
yeah.
Skyrim was recent, but oh my god, dude, there's another thing. One of my friends that we play online games all the time, he brought his cousin, and his cousin is 18, and I couldn't believe it because he has such a thick voice. And I had one of those moments right now again when I found out he was 18. I realized when he was 7 and learning alphabet, Skyrim came out, and I was like, am I that old now?
Yeah, it's a crazy realization. Have you ever tried chatting with people in games and like lobbies, and then
Uh,
you suddenly realize, okay, maybe it happened to me, but
oh
like
yes, oh yeah,
when
yeah,
you're
yeah,
when you're when you
100%.
chat with people in like when you chat with people in gaming lobbies, and then you slowly realize that like you don't
Oh,
understand anything. Like there's like a disconnect. Like it's like you feel like you're a dad or something. It's a weird feeling, man. It's like
oh,
feeling like
definitely, definitely.
you're
Oh,
just old news kind of thing.
yes, man. Like,
Yeah.
not still just that. Like when you're, for example, playing an online game, I kind of don't remember the last time I played anything online that well. But I mean, I kind of understand what you mean because I was in a team and there was someone who was being toxic and flaming, and they pissed me off. I mute them, but I realized they're still like flaming and inting, and of course I don't usually type or say anything, but if I type something, but then I, for example, hear their voice in the voice chat, and they sound like it's some 11-year-old kid or 10-year-old kid, and I'm like, oh, oh, I'm the old one here, you know?
Yeah, yeah. Like you could be his or her dad. Like at this point, it's like
No, I
very
wouldn't
very
say
weird.
that, but like maybe in 5 years, even
Okay,
in
okay,
5 years,
okay.
but yeah,
Yeah, but I could
man.
probably be. It's like it's such a weird feeling. It's like you're playing with like people who could be your nephew, kind of thing. You know?
Oh yeah, definitely, definitely, man. And well, now speaking of all the artworks and pieces that you've done, I also want to ask you is how does your design process usually look like when you want to start working on a piece? Like for example, from the moment you get your brief, in a studio or something, and to the moment that you finish the piece and you actually give it to the next person on the pipeline. Basically,
Sure.
what major steps do you take each time you want to work on a piece?
Okay, so let's just take a typical brief. Let's just say like environment concept, start to finish. So what will usually happen, or like how I like to go about it, is like first of all you read the brief and you read it very thoroughly. So this could be like reading it with your art director, your lead, and having like conversation with them about it. So why this is so important to do it thoroughly is so you don't like miss out on any key information. So if there's something there that's missing, like I always ask questions. I'm like, hey, like what about this? Or if you're curious about something that doesn't make sense, like clarify, because if you don't, and you make a mistake in the concept, you're going to waste time. You might waste like a day of time just because you didn't know something was, a certain way. So that's the first step. And then the second step is once you understand the brief, I do a lot of like at least an hour or two of research, sometimes even a day of research. So I'll literally be on the internet looking for any information that I need. It could be reference photos, it could be textures, it could be like even like kit bash sets or whatever I need to do the task. Also, it's important like if you're designing something that is very functional, like if let's say you're designing like I don't know, like a factory or it has like machinery, it's like understanding your subject matter. So that's also part of research. I'll try to research how things work. If I'm doing like a factory, like how do factories work? What do they look like? What's the key ingredients, kind of thing. So once I'm done that, I'll usually start sketching. So for me, I like to do black and white thumbnails, and they're usually like these simple graphic thumbnails that have like no color, just black and white, and they kind of give like the gist of the image. There's not a lot of detail, and so I'll do a bunch. Depends on the task. Maybe either one, or maybe I'll give them a bunch, like maybe 3 or 4 to choose from, and that'll kind of sell the mood, the lighting, the story, and just show my art director what I'm going for. I'll then talk to my art director. He'll give me the approval, and then from there, I kind of redo the image, but I start using things like 3D. So I'll go in Blender. I will, make a basic block out of the scene. I'll add textures. I can sometimes get models that I don't have to model and import them. So do whatever I can to get a base. And then once I have the base, I put the lighting that I want that looks the way, that tells the right story. And then I'll go to Photoshop after and finish it up. Usually, most of the time will be spent in Photoshop. Sometimes it varies, but I'll usually do like maybe 10 or 20% of the process in Blender, and then do like all my painting, photo bashing in Photoshop. I guess that's mainly my process. I don't know if you have any questions, but.
All right. And, oh yeah, I actually had a question. I kind of forgot it, but, let me just jump into another topic, that kind of was relevant to this, our conversation, like recent conversation, which was, I recently, had on the podcast Laura Gallagher. Do you know her?
Rings a bell, but I don't.
She's from the same city as you. She's from Montreal as well. She works on
okay.
ADOS. She's a senior character
Wait,
artist.
She's at ADOS?
I think yes, she worked at ADOS.
Okay.
I think something like that.
She worked there. Okay, either she.
Wait. Let me check. Or maybe I'm just.
If she does,
I swear I saw ADOS somewhere on her station. Wait.
Okay. Depends when. If she's still here, then she's probably on a different project, and people keep coming and going. So you know how it is.
Yeah, the thing is, Laura Gallagher is a British Olympic athlete, not that one. The other Laura Gallagher on our station. Just make sure you're not searching. We're searching for the same Laura again. She was on episode 160, and all right, let me check. Usually in about sections, yes, she worked on Horizon Forbidden West, Deus Ex Mankind Divided, Tomb Raider, Deus Ex Human Revolution.
Okay, she was before my time.
ADOS Montreal for 9 years. Like lead character artist at ADOS Montreal from 2008 to June.
Lead character artist, not concept. Character, right?
Oh yeah. Sorry, my bad.
Yeah. So for me, that's the thing. I don't really know many people in the 3D side of things. I know some people, but that's probably why the name rang a bell, but I wasn't sure. Probably because it's part of the 3D team. There's so many people in the company, so it's so hard to keep track of names nowadays.
Yeah, it's one of those mega game companies, right?
I think we're like in between. Like we're not as big as, let's say, Ubisoft, where there's like thousands of people in like a building. We're a good size. I think we're like a few hundred people.
All right, and basically, I recently realized that I'm not actually diagnosed, but I'm pretty sure I have ADHD, since I was a kid. And I think one of the reasons, and I think one of the factors that I kind of know that is also having many interests as well. And yeah, but you see, I was going to Laura Gallagher, then British powerlifter, then just what am I doing? All right, the point is, let me just get back on track. Sorry.
No worries.
While I was talking to her, I also asked her about what is the best way to basically, present your portfolio to a company if you want to enter as a junior artist, not just character, just anything in a position. And she basically told me that it's best if you have at most 2 to 3 pieces.
At most?
Yes. But let it be super high quality pieces that makes the person who's looking at it want more, then if you want, you can reveal more, because the amount of time people look at your portfolio is not that much, and if nothing in your pieces in the thumbnails catch their eye, it's over. That's basically what she said. And it logically seems really true, but I want to know from your perspective as well, since you working professionally at ADOS, and I'm assuming you've been pretty much involved in other aspects of the company and industry as well, but what advice would you give to a junior artist to how should they present their portfolio?
Okay, I'll try to tie it into just getting a job in general too. But when it comes to the portfolio, I think it's one of those. I agree with what she said. It's less is more is really the place to go. Because if you have, let's say, 15 pieces, and 3 are pretty good, as in they're hireable, but you have 12 that are just student kind of some people put their studies, practice drawing. It really colors the vision and how someone who's hiring you will look at it. They'll be okay, he did a bunch of good ones here, maybe 2 or 3, but why are the rest not as good? Like that's something that they'll think either subconsciously or consciously. And so what you want to do instead is you want to trim it and just keep it the top level of where you're capable only. So if you're, let's say, building your portfolio, it's okay to sometimes trim your older work as you start to improve, because you will be improving really fast. I've been hired on projects just literally on one piece. Like it's happened where like a studio saw like, oh, we saw this picture. It was just like one picture. We think you could do this project, and it's like I think it was for Castlevania actually. I did some background work for Castlevania. It's like I literally just did one piece with architecture, like some sort of I think Arabic temple, and they just saw it. They're like, oh, this guy can do the job. So they basically, I got a gig just off one piece. So definitely prioritize quality. But I'll add another thing for portfolio. You do want to target what kind of industry you're after or what kind of studio you'd like to attract. So there is some strategy involved. If you want to work for, let's say, like, I don't know, very photorealistic stuff like Last of Us, that kind of stuff, you know, definitely put photorealistic artwork, you know, try to match the themes that, like, try to match the typical themes that will happen in that space. Post-apocalyptic, definitely have some post-apocalyptic stuff in your portfolio, because the people looking at it, they don't have the time to think about it. They're just like trying to picture you on their project. They're like, oh, does he fit or does he not fit? You know, it's like there's this artist, how do I say it, quote. It was like, if you, let's say, paint, it's not a quote, but it's like a saying. It's like, if you paint, let's say, apples and lemons, don't expect someone to hire you for bananas or whatever. Like, it's really that one-to-one. Sometimes you literally have to put the exact type of work you want to work, like the exact type of work that matches the studio you want to work for up on your portfolio, just to make it super obvious. So that would be another thing to do. And just as a side thing, like I want to add that, like, networking is also something that gets overlooked a lot, especially as artists. Like we don't really like to, let's say, like, we're not the most outgoing type. Let's just put it that way. Like a lot of artists I know are, you know, very like, they like to do things their way. They like to kind of be in hermit mode, all that kind of stuff. But networking can go a long way. Just sending emails to like artists that work at studios that you like, hey, like, I would really love your opinion on my portfolio if you have the time. Love to hear back, that kind of stuff. Just, you know, planting little seeds. Like it could just be asking for a review, but I guarantee you, like, the more you do kind of those little things where you network, people will remember you. And so when your work does, let's say, get to the quality that it needs to be, all it takes is, like, let's say, one person at a studio that you poked one day, and he remembers, like, he has a good feeling about you. Maybe you were very polite. That's one thing to make sure to do. He just remembers, you know, you were polite and that you're hardworking, and then he just sees your work. He's like, hey, this guy's good. Then he could recommend you to the studio. So it's like a mix, I would say. You know, network is a combination of networking, strategy, and just your best work.
Yeah, exactly. And here's the thing. Yeah, there are cases that, you know, even if you don't much network, but your work is super good, you can get hired there. At the same time, your works can be pretty mid, but because you have connections, you get the job. So basically, try to strike out a balance between both. But these are like super important advices as well, because, you know, everyone just focuses on the art aspect of it and not the technical. Like, yeah, I mean, they focus on technical side, but not as much as the soft skill side. Because here's the thing: at the end of the day, like, it's learning the skill of being social and just dealing with different people is super important and helpful in everything. Like, just whether in art, whether just everything. Like, those big connections that you want in your field, you know, if you just, you know, if you have that good communication skill, you know, could come in pretty clutch, actually, you know, in a lot of cases. Definitely. And it's a skill that you should learn with open mind. And basically, like, I don't want to. I think I'm kind of getting into the subject a lot of some deep subjects again. But just
Hey man,
all in
I
all,
love that stuff, but yeah, we can go deep if you want.
yeah, like I'm just trying. Is the time because you said before we go podcast you only have an hour and a half, and I'm trying to kind of
Oh yeah.
yeah, because of that. I'm sorry.
No
Uh,
worries.
but I'm fine. I can go on for 3 hours, but I'm just trying to deal with that as well. And so yeah, that's an interesting thing. Trying to keep it limited. And I don't know if you know,
Yeah.
but our station doesn't let you delete your stuff unless you're a paid subscriber.
What?
So yes, it
Really?
doesn't actually. It's
You
so
can't delete a
weird.
piece. You can't delete a piece in your portfolio.
You
That's
can't.
weird.
No, wait. Unless you're a paid subscriber, though. That's it to our session.
Huh.
Yes,
Okay.
because after I got off the call with Laura, she kind of made me realize that, oh shit, I shouldn't have treated my art station portfolio like Instagram or the art portfolio of those other artists, like
Oh
established
yeah.
artists who don't give a shit about, like, if they get hired or not, because they post everything, their sketches, everything, you know what I mean? And they
Yeah.
don't
Yeah.
care.
Yeah.
But for juniors, you shouldn't do that, my friend.
Oh yeah.
And I kind of did that. So I was like, oh God, I tried to delete them, couldn't. And I was like, there's one logical thing to do. And I just nuked it and made a new one. And I haven't
Oh,
posted
just
anything.
remade. Okay.
Yeah. And
Then you have to get like your followers back, though, isn't that?
no, man, I didn't have much followers. I had like two, three, my buddies.
Oh, okay. Okay. In that case, yeah, it's fine.
Yeah, man, it's fine. Don't worry. But thanks for
Yeah.
concern. But yeah, man, like I haven't posted anything yet on the Dart station as well. I'm just trying to improve my skills as much as possible.
Mm-hmm.
So then, I mean, even before I post them, I make like a beta version of my portfolio and send them to a bunch of people I know who are like professionals, and get their opinion, as well, to see which ones I should upload. Then after that, I shall upload. But till now, it's gonna be empty for a while.
Yeah.
And yeah,
Nothing wrong with that. Sometimes you need like a bit of some people feel more comfortable, like let's say just going deep for like a year or two, and then when they feel comfortable posting, they kind of just they're like, here's what I worked on for the past like year or two, and it's like,
Yeah.
oh crap, do a big level up.
I mean, most juniors are like that. But I mean, aside from the fact maybe you're a professional who's been working on an IP that you can't because of NDA talk about, that's a different story. But all in all, I mean, most juniors do that. Most juniors know what to do with their portfolio, not what they did to their portfolios like me. What I did, like I posted like my first ever render. I don't know why I did that on our session, because I assumed I could delete it later, right? Hide it or unlist it.
Yeah.
But I have to be a paid subscriber. And to be a paid subscriber, you need, I think, $10 each month. And that doesn't sound a lot for maybe Canada or US, but for here, it sounds...
up. Yeah, it adds up, man, for sure. Like
no, listen,
$100 a year.
With 10 USDs, you can wait. I can eat for 4 days here. Like, it's good money here. I can't do
it. I get it. Okay.
And yeah. All right, so let's jump into the next question, which is, who are some of your favorite artists and designers that have inspired you the most?
Oh my. Oh, the list keeps growing. I'll start with the roots. So, for me, like, I have to thank him a lot because, he taught me. Like, I was part of his mentorship, but a big inspiration of mine is Eitan Zana and all the guys from Naughty Dog. There's a whole crew like Nick Shintro, I think John Sweeney at the time, Aaron Liminick. That kind of group of artists was a huge influence. Oh, and also Shadi Safadi. He's actually really amazing too. This group of artists was like a huge influence on the way I learned and what kind of things I decided to learn as an environment concept artist. The beautiful like Uncharted artwork, all that kind of painterly but photographic kind of stuff. Super inspiring to me, and still is. Still walking in that kind of direction. I love artists such as like Jamie Jones, Craig Mullins, of course, like kind of like these veteran guys, and nowadays I'm kind of getting more interested in oil painters. Like I have like a huge like collection I'm collecting right now on Pinterest of just like people who do cliffs and like landscapes and trees and like rivers and stuff like that. So I've been super interested in like yeah, just what these guys are up to, because they're pioneering like a whole different way of thinking about art than, let's say, someone on an art station, you know. So trying to vary my influences, but yeah, that's kind of where I've been at.
Yeah, I honestly like it's been like a couple of months that I've been really like enjoying like seeing the works of different plein air artists. Like I really love the genre of plein air.
Oh yeah.
It's a good mix of impressionism, but also like um, but just striking a balance with impressionism and also the realism of the piece as well. I love the like good plein air artists, like the way they use colors to portray their subject. Like it's an amazing field in itself, and it's always a joy to watch the masters of that genre of work with their craft, honestly. And speaking of a lot of works that we mentioned, and I was wondering, what are you working on right now that you can tell us about? I mean, of course, by tell us about, I mean like because yeah, I mean, of course, there's NDAs involved all
Yeah.
the time. If that's not the case, could you tell us what you're doing right now?
Okay, so I can't really reveal anything that I'm working on for IDOS right now because it is NDA, it's unannounced. Hopefully we get to announce it soon, but I can't. I can say I'm working on some Magic the Gathering stuff, so that's been really fun on my spare time. I guess you're familiar with the Magic the Gathering card game.
I know it, but I never played it or
Okay,
anything.
well they're one of the biggest I guess card games, like up there with like Yu-Gi-Oh and Pokemon, all those that kind of stuff. So I've been doing a lot of card illustration for them. So like I don't know if you've seen like the cards they have, but they're like this big
Oh
and there's
yeah,
like
actually, a bunch of guests on the podcast. A lot of people on the podcast, now that I think of it, have done works with Wizards of the Coast. That's kind of
exactly
interesting.
that's the company. Yeah. So Wizards is the ones who manage Magic. So I've been doing a lot of very illustrative stuff. So separate from gaming. So I get to it's been fun because get to focus a lot more on like painting and like storytelling and really like I guess the more fantasy kind of stuff that I guess is nice and refreshing since I was on Art Guardians for so long. So besides that though, if you should look behind me, I've been kind of doing music a lot. I think everyone's took COVID a bit differently. Like when COVID hit, we're all like shoveled into our homes, and like I know a lot of people like they started getting new hobbies. But yeah, it's been a lot of like music for me on my spare time when I'm not working. So
All right, awesome. And the next thing is, yeah, that's actually such a great segue that you mentioned music, because what I was going to ask is what area beside like, art and digital art and stuff you have hobbies or you want to work on more in the future, which you kind of, gave an answer to. But besides from music, is there anything else?
oh, like things that are like
Yeah,
hobbies,
other
you mean? Like,
ambitions and aspirations that you might have.
oh, ambitions. That is a good question. Like 2 years ago, I would have said, "Hey, I want to work for Magic," and now like I'm working for Magic, so it's kind of like, okay, what's next? Honestly, I could probably like I really enjoy teaching, and not a lot of people know I teach, but I did a few courses at Sin Studio, but now I do like mentoring. That's very I don't really announce it, so I find students through word of mouth or whatever, but I do one-on-one mentoring. So in the future, I don't know, I could picture myself maybe taking it a step further, maybe making some content online, or even starting a channel. Maybe there's some sort of YouTube thing. That could be something I can definitely see myself doing.
Yeah, definitely. Honestly, like, creating content is it depends on the personality types, but if you're the type of person that likes to entertain and educate at the same time, I think YouTube and just in general creating content is an amazing thing. And there's so many metas that haven't been being really worked on yet, because I think art streaming on Twitch is not that popular, let's be real. But
Yeah, yeah.
I honestly, there's a lot of ways to make it fun and actually interesting and get people's interest. Like I actually have some plans that I want to pitch to a bunch of streamers that I know, and I don't know, maybe something happens. But yeah, I actually have a lot of plans when it comes to content, but my priorities in life are something else, much crucial stuff than, the side projects. So, like, it's basically like in an RPG game, like there's side quests, there's main quests. But you said you're doing your main quest right now, and you've been quite successful at it. So now you're thinking about side quests. But for me, for someone like me, I should work on my main quest, not the side quest,
Yeah, Like back talking to you like 3-4 years ago, like that grind period of just like obsession, that was like story mode. That was like the story campaign, I guess. Now
That's
I'm like trying to find, I guess,
analogy,
DLC. We're trying to find DLC and stuff like that. So,
like, they say, for example, Rock made like a rap. It's about drive. It's about power, something like that. Remember? And everyone was talking about, that, he's done everything in life now. He's just doing side quests. Now he's making music.
Yeah. It's a bit like that. I don't know. It's like sometimes it's nice to, let's say when you do that grind, it's kind of exhausting. But it's kind of nice to like let your interests kind of flow in different directions and just see if there's other things. Because there's something nice about doing something where you don't have to perform at an elite level all the time. You know what I mean? Like you have your main quest, which is like art, and then it's like you have to perform. It's like that's your thing. It's like you got to get good at that. You got to keep up to date. But then it's nice to have things where it's just like, oh, I can just do this and I don't have to be the best, or I don't have to get hired, in a year from now with it. So it's a nice thing, I find. It's like a nice fresh breath of fresh air.
Yeah, exactly. And well, with everything that's been said and done, we've reached the final section and question of the podcast, which is called Final Words. And all right, let me just explain it like this. Imagine in a limited amount of time, like maybe a couple of minutes, you had this window of opportunity to say anything as Sean Wu to anyone who might be listening to this podcast at any point of time in future. Like it's basically essentially imagine like, if we didn't turn into a post-apocalyptic setting in 100 years and the world has been like, going on and all the servers are fine and people can still listen to this podcast even in 100 years. Basically, at any point in future, not just that. What do you have to say to people? Not just about arts, just in general. What does Sean Wu has to say?
That's deep. Oh man, this probably puts a lot of people on the spot. They get it. They're like, oh, okay, like, but that's a deep one. If someone saw a video of me and they like from 100 years from now. I guess I would tell people to kind of, at least this age, kind of like try to find something you can really focus on and like find, like, it's kind of cheesy. People say follow your heart, but like you really have to, I feel, remember what that is. Like remember the reason behind following your heart, because I feel like that is something so timeless that it's been written in like the oldest stories from thousands of years ago. I think that's something really important, that no matter what career you're in, no matter who you are, like you need to kind of remember that like there's a hero's journey for you, and that you should definitely follow your heart and follow where your passion wants to bring you. It could bring you down some rough roads, but I don't know. In my opinion, it's worth it. So if there's anything you can take from it, it would be like, yeah, man, like take the hero's journey. Don't rot away in a job you don't want. Like don't settle for less. Like there's always a quest. There's a main quest really close, and you just need to like click him and then accept and then do the quest. So let's leave it at that.
All right. Awesome. And yes, you were correct. It puts 90% of the guests of the podcast on the spot, especially this question. Like, especially recently, like someone just gave me as answer to this question, someone told me to just write, don't put pineapple on pizza. Someone else told me to bring a second pair of underwear whenever you go to space. Like I've had answers like this. I mean,
they're good answers. There's honestly, some wisdom there.
Yeah. I mean, I might get a lot of hate for this, but I've never tried pineapple on pizza, but that doesn't seem so bad.
It's not worth it.
Honestly, like, yes, I mean, of course, a fresh pineapple, of course, that sucks, but roasted pineapple actually goes well with beef or, meat, honestly, And
yeah, this is a very polarized topic. So
Before bloodshed has been spilled in the comments.
Exactly.
Let's move on.
Pitchforks everywhere. They're coming.
Yeah, all right, man. It was a hell of fun of an episode, honestly, for me. And thanks so much for coming by. And thank you to anyone who tuned in that listened to this episode. I hope you enjoyed it. And let me know down in the comments, does pineapple belong in pizzas? And I want to actually see what's going on in the comments. It's gonna be interesting. And if you have any other comments or suggestions or anything, please do leave them down in the comments below, or you can just send it to me privately on Instagram. It's fine. And with that being said, thanks so much again for coming by, and thank you to anyone who tuned in again. I hope you all have an amazing day. Take care, everyone. Till next episode. Bye.
Bye-bye.